Think we're live. Welcome all. My name is Dennis Kim, Concertmaster of your Pacific Symphony. First of all, happy Veterans Day. And for those folks up in Canada, Remembrance Day. We thank all of our service members for making the biggest sacrifice. We're all grateful for everything that you do. Today we have special guest, one of my favorite players in the orchestra, principal trumpet player, Barry Perkins.
Hi, Dennis. Hi, everybody.
Great to see you. It's been so long since I saw you in person, and it's so great to see you at least online through Zoom.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Dennis. Yeah, I miss you too. So hopefully we'll be back. We'll be back soon.
Absolutely. And like before, please put your questions into the chat box, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. But yeah, first of all, let's just can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself? Where you grew up and where you went to school and when you joined the Pacific Symphony.
Well, I'm originally, a lot of people don't know this, but I'm originally from New York, Rochester, born in Rochester, New York. Started playing the trumpet when I was 5 years old. My dad is a trumpet player by hobby. I mean, he's a research chemist. But at 5 o'clock every day, he would come home and play his trumpet. And so as kids, we were supposed to play piano and an instrument of our choice, and I guess we thought that all the other kids in the neighborhood did this. I'm 5 years old, so I don't really know the difference. So we all had piano lessons, and I basically, well, Dad, I want to play the instrument that you play, and so that was it for me. So I started playing trumpet, and my dad was my teacher, whether I liked it or not. But yeah, so I just kind of had trumpet lessons before dinner. That's how that happened in New York. So we moved around, went to New Jersey after that, where I was pretty much my brother and I were the only people in the band. They didn't have much of a band there. So that was a little discouraging as a young musician. And then after that, we moved to Corpus Christi, Texas, which band is really big there. And so that's when, I kind of said, well, wow, I mean, a lot of people do this, and this is a lot of fun. We're on the field and we're playing this great music. At least to me, I thought it was great. And after Texas, moved to California, actually to Irvine, where you live, Dennis. So I went to Irvine High School. Actually listened to the Pacific Symphony when I was a kid.
That's amazing. And when did you join the orchestra?
I joined in, what was it, 2000 and, 15 years ago. What is that? 04?
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah, it's been in the orchestra for 15, 16 years. So yeah, basically my life kind of made this full circle, ending up back with the Pacific Symphony. Just to backtrack, I went to college in New England Conservatory in Boston and studied with Charlie Schluter there, which is actually the first time I saw Carl St. Clair. He was the assistant conductor with the Boston Symphony. So after Boston, I got a job in the Mexico City Philharmonic. I won that and when I was 19 years old, almost 20 years old. Yeah. So there was the decision, like, do I do the job or stay in school? I spoke to my teacher about that, and basically he said, "See you later."
Right.
You can always come back to school, but you can't. Having a job is priceless. So
Right.
and he was right. And I was the Mexico City Philharmonic for 5 years before coming back to the States.
That's amazing.
So,
Similarly, when I was young, I had a chance to work right away after school, and being a single guy in Hong Kong, I'm sure it's similar to you, being a single guy in Mexico. That must have been fun, being a 19-year-old making money down in Mexico.
it was amazing. It was amazing. I never had money as a musician ever. Sometimes I get $50 for playing at a wedding or something like that, but never a salaried position. I didn't know what to do with all of that purple money. It was amazing. But I mean, I felt really blessed at the time, because my dad always told me, if you could play your horn, especially get paid for it, you're one of the luckiest people on the planet. So
Right.
I kind of kept that with me, and playing in Mexico and doing these great concerts. I mean, we played all of the literature, a lot of the literature that sometimes you don't get the chance to play here in the States.
Right.
And the audiences loved it.
Yeah, similar stories because I mean, playing in Asia and especially in Finland, I remember playing a new piece almost every week. I mean,
Every
they're
week.
so supportive of new music,
Right.
and of course it's different here in America. You know, if you put that kind of stuff on, you know, some of the donors might not like it. So we do a lot of Tchaikovsky and a lot of the Beethovens and Brahmses. But yeah, I think we need the right balance because if we don't play new music, it's gonna die, and we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. So no,
Absolutely.
it's amazing.
Yeah, the young people. I mean, it was, there was so many young people there in Mexico that I just didn't realize the culture was like that. You know, they would wait for me at the musicians' entrance and talk about what I did in the third movement of a Bruckner symphony,
Right.
and they knew exactly what they were asking, what they were talking about, and they understood my answer, which is very neat for me as a young musician. So
No, it's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I think you know it's a little bit different culture here in America, but hopefully you know it'll even out a little bit. I think the sports culture is a lot like that here. I mean, including you and me. I mean, we're big sports fans, and you know
yeah,
I know where each athlete went to school and what their salary is, and you know
right,
where they
right.
play their college ball. But you know, for musicians, it's not really the same. Speaking of Kobe, I know that you've had a chance to meet Kobe Bryant, and you actually even spoke to him.
Mm.
Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, Kobe, you know, I think the Kobe Bryants and the Michael Jordans of this world, I mean, they've all been heroes to me and good examples. But, you know, Kobe used to come to concerts with the Pacific Symphony, especially if John Williams was conducting. And of course, we would see him at the Nutcracker. And we did Dear Basketball, that short film that he was a part of. So we had a couple chances to speak about certain things, and I remember the one thing that he said to me was that there there's so many parallels between being an athlete, a professional athlete, and a professional musician. And you know, he's pretty much the first professional athlete to ever acknowledge that musicians do work hard, that we do spend 8 hours a day on our craft, you know, especially coming up as a young person. And he realized how much dedication it took to get to this level and how much hard work it took. And of course, if anybody knows anything about Kobe, I mean, he was all about working hard or harder than the next person, you know. And in this profession, you sort of gotta have that sort of mindset if you want to make it at these auditions where you know you're going up against 100 people for one spot, you know.
Right.
And as all of us as musicians in the orchestra, we realize how hard that is, and it's like a needle in a haystack to get a job, and you could be the best musician in the world and still not get the job because it wasn't your day or that wasn't what they were looking for, you know. But you got to keep trying, you know, no matter what happens. And so I just thought that was such an amazing comment from him that he realized how hard we do work, you know, and compared the two professions.
Right. I've only been in California for 2 years, but yeah, my first Nutcracker, one of the cellists said to me, "Oh, Kobe's in the front row," and I was like, "Are you kidding?" And he's like, "No, he's in the front row." And of course, I jumped up on the podium and I
I
looked
saw
up,
you.
and it was Kobe Bryant. I was like, "Oh my God!" And then I got the courage to get up and say, I said, "Mr. Bryant, do you mind taking a picture with me?" And he's like, "Sure." And he leaned over and I have this picture, of course, that I'll cherish forever. But you know, looking back, you know, I remember saying, okay, next year, if he comes back, I'm gonna ask him if he can, you know, maybe conduct the Nutcracker Overture or do something with the Pacific Symphony because you know that'd be great.
Yeah.
I know that he loves music and it would be great for us. And yeah, and then of course that terrible accident and just looking back, I mean, you just have to go for it when you have the chance and when you have the idea. I think you know
Yeah.
to be shy is not is never the right answer.
Right.
And
It's funny, Mike.
yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but when I came home and I was telling my kids are big Kobe fans and sports fans, and the first thing they said to me was, "Dad, so did you invite him over for dinner?" There was my lost opportunity. It would have been great, but who
Yeah, but
knows?
knowing Kobe, I heard that like if someone like you did ask him, I think he might have maybe one day come down,
You
and that's
never
the kind of
know.
person he was. I heard so. No, he's
Yeah.
amazing. We have our first question in the chat, and this is perfect because it leads to my next question. Sandy asks, might there be a Christmas organ concert? I know you're the star, actually, of the annual Christmas Organ Spectacular. I know this is hugely popular and in this huge following. You know, what goes into preparing a concert like that, and how did you get this huge following?
Well, I think it started out as sort of a volunteered. I kind of volunteered. It's like, hey, I had this idea about. I mean, I could speak more. I think there was something about us not having a singer. At first, we had a singer, and then the following year, we weren't going to have a singer. It was just going to be sort of organ and the instrumentalist. So I sort of volunteered to play a bigger role. I think that's how it started. And then, with that first time, just connecting with the audience, it was so much fun for me. And to share stories and tell a few jokes that I thought only I thought were funny, but I guess they they thought it was funny as well. And working with the musicians, I mean, I think that's a big part of it. It's not just me up there speaking. Of course, it's the organist. I mean, that's just such wonderful music, and to have Todd there with us every year is just pretty amazing. And then having you there last few years has been great. And of course, I think one of the favorite moments that we've experienced over the last few years has been Elliot Moreau. His saxophone playing has pretty much brought down the house every year. Because
Amazing.
No one expects it. He's our bassoonist in the Pacific Symphony, mild mannered bassoonist, and then you put a saxophone in his hand, it's all over. Yeah,
Exactly. No, it's incredible.
They love it, and so that sort of thing that we're able to bounce off each other and kind of leave his bit for the end. And so I think everybody's kind of expecting it now, but yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I'm so happy that the turnout has been so great over the last few years.
Right. No, initially you asked me to do it, and I was like, what, an organ concert in the big hall, and there's going to be like 6 of us? I mean, is anyone going to show up? And I remember the first concert, I was like, oh my God, it was totally full. It was like a real
It's packed
up to the top. And I was like,
yeah.
oh, it'd be nice if our Beethoven symphonies would have this kind of following. But
Right.
I remember the first time you asked me to do a little play acting, and there's a picture that Alexi has. But I was like, yeah, I guess. And like you said, I didn't know that if the audience would like it or not. But
They loved it.
no, exactly. It was so much fun. And I think the audience enjoys that. They see us as real people, not just people in tails. As stuffy
Right.
classical musicians. But we have a sense of humor, and that we're actually kind of fun to get to
Sure.
know.
It was so great. It's so great having you there. I mean,
Lexi,
of course
where's the picture? Come on.
Of course, your playing is amazing, but just to have your presence there is great for all of us. There was a picture. There it is. Holy moly!
And I remember telling Barry, I was like, Barry, this is a very expensive violin. Can you please be careful? And he was like, dude, my trumpet's expensive too. I was like, no, it's a different level. But yeah, that was a lot of fun, and we have matching bow ties, and I hope those. I don't know about this year, but I hope those concerts come back soon. And that was really a fun highlight of the year for me too, and for my family.
But I think you're right. I mean, it was the opportunity for the audience to kind of see us as people, as opposed to the musicians that are back there on stage and sort of untouchable, I guess that you could say. But it gives the audience a chance to know us a little bit better. We could tell a story. We tell stories about. Well, I told a story about my past and about Mexico and a few jokes here and there, and just lighthearted humor is great, especially around the time of year. So I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna have one this year.
I don't know either.
Doesn't look like it.
Right. But I mean, for me, musically speaking, I can basically just play the violin. But I know that's not the case with you. You arrange. Not only do you play trumpet, but you arrange stuff and you act a little bit. You do a little bit of everything. And I know that you've started making some clips for YouTube, and I know we have a few of them. Can you set up our first one?
Okay. I sort of got into this. I mean, I've always done a little bit of arranging, especially for my group, the collective, which again Elliot is a member of, and so Carl St. Clair approached me and was wondering if I could make a video with the other trumpet player in the other orchestra that he conducts, which is the National Symphony of Costa Rica. And so I couldn't wait to get started, and Juan was very gracious, and he was very willing to do this project with me. And so that was pretty much the first kind of serious mosaic project that I did. I mean, I did some other videos with my son, these quarantine videos that are really fun, playing on the balcony, but this was the first sort of produced one that I put some thought into and used my fancy camera and all that.
No, it's done really well, and I think for our audience who hasn't seen it, I think you're gonna really enjoy it. I think that's the clip that's gonna be shown now.
It's a little on the choppy side, I think.
And we are back. Rich Caparola with you following intermission during this live broadcast concert by the Pacific Symphony. Carl St. Clair, music director. On stage, principal trumpet for the orchestra, Gary Perkins.
thanks.
Wow, it sounds incredible. I mean,
Yeah,
but where did you learn to do that kind of stuff? I mean, all this editing and that's amazing.
well, that was sort of the first one. I mean, I've always had interest in filmmaking and of course, recording, but never had the time. I'm
Wow.
always, I mean, for the last, was it 30 years or 20, 25, 30 years, I've been working like a dog to make this music thing happen, as we all have. And there's just no time to, let's say, take 8 hours out of your day every day to sort of learn this craft,
Right.
and it always interests me. Like I would look at a video that was made, and I was like, oh, I would love to be able to do that. Or I'd watch a movie. I was like, man, how did, what's the whole camera setup, and how do these guys come up with this scene, and just always interests me. And I actually had a plan that all these things that I couldn't do over the last 30 years, I would take a sabbatical and do it before I couldn't do those things anymore.
Right. It's
So
amazing.
so it's this sort of time away is I'm kind of treating it like that. Everything that I've wanted to do,
Right.
I'm taking now the time to do it and kind of enjoying myself that way.
Right. Those of you who are interested, of course, Alexi will post a link in the chat, so you can feel free to watch it again over and over, and it's on YouTube. But it's
Yeah.
amazing, and
It's a
for some of you,
little choppy on this end, so I'm not sure if it
no, I think
this
your internet
broadcast out there.
is pretty good on this end. But anyways,
Okay.
the link will be there. So those of you who had good internet, you enjoyed it. But if it was a little choppy, please click on the link and it'll take you to the YouTube channel, and it's amazing. And there's so many comments how amazing it was. So for those who know, I mean, there's you had this one piece ear piece, and I'm assuming you use that also when you do your session work in LA. So one of the questions was always, what's the difference between being a principal trumpet player of a symphony orchestra, and what's the difference in playing in the studios?
Well, I mean, the difference is that I mean, they're completely different. Live playing and playing in the studios, and that's something I actually had to learn. 10 or 11, 12 years ago when I first started playing in studios. That as you know, and you're very familiar with playing in the orchestra, that's what we've done our whole lives. It's just a different kind of playing in a 2,000 seat auditorium. And since the trumpet is so directional, I've been trained my whole life how to get the sound out there. Have the colors of the trumpet be in such a way that it's present in the concert hall, but at the same time not offending. So that's totally different because you're dealing with space. You're dealing with the distance between your bell and the audience. In the recording studio, the microphone's right there. So and also you're not following it. I mean, there's a conductor, but in general, you're pretty much following the click that's in your ear. And it took me a while to sort of adjust to that because I'm used to following a conductor, and I'm locked in to the conductor in my music and my peripheral vision. I'm just always going with that. And I remember the first time I was following the conductor and not the click. I was not with everybody else, so I had to make my adjustments pretty quick. I remember sitting next to Tim Morrison, like one of my first days. Tim Morrison was used to be in the Boston Symphony, and of course he was a big studio player years ago. And of course he's an orchestral player, so he knew the deal. And he caught me following the conductor and not the click, and he looked over me. He goes, "Don't do that." So from that moment on, I was just okay, just zero into the click, and the sound concept's different. In the orchestra, you kind of want a more colorful, darker, broader sound to get sort of past the sea of strings that you have to get past and then out into the audience. In the studios, you need the kind of sound that's pretty directional and maybe on the brighter side so that it records well. So totally two different concepts. It took me a while to learn what that was, but luckily I was surrounded by top-notch musicians, trumpet players. I just kind of listened to them, and man, I was like, okay, that's how it's done. Guys like
I just started, and it is amazing, like you said. I mean, the quality of the players there, and to be honest, I would say more than half of the string players are Pacific players or ex-Pacific players. So
right.
how they can sight read music. I mean, I can sight read anything, but these guys They're
Right.
it's amazing. They can read anything on the stand,
Right.
and most of the time you get it that morning. Very rarely do you get it earlier, and if you get it earlier, you get it a day earlier. You don't get it a week earlier.
Right.
Like last week's guest, Jeannie Scrocky, I know you've had a chance to work with the John Williams, and on some of his amazing movies. Tell us a little bit about your experience working with him and some of the bigger movies that you've done.
Well, I think that for all of us, I think I could say that that's pretty much the high point of all of our careers is doing Star Wars with John Williams. I mean, I'm sure all the trumpet players, all the trumpet players there share the same sentiment. I mean, he's a genius, and to be there recording something that you grew up on was amazing. I mean, I remember playing Darth Vader's theme when I was in the fifth grade. That was my first recital. I was in fifth grade, and now I'm actually playing on a Star Wars movie. So the last three Star Wars movies were just amazing. I think we all had chills when we played the main title.
Right.
And just this lineup that you're looking at, this lineup of trumpet players is pretty much the best in town. I mean, these guys are the best in town, and when they're firing on all cylinders, it gives you chills.
No, not the best in town. I mean, you could say best in the world.
Yeah.
I mean,
Best
just
in the
sitting
world,
in the studios,
absolutely.
yeah, and hearing the winds and brass who never make mistakes, and because you make a mistake, I mean, it's money. Like if you have to stop and waste time and that kind of stuff. So it's like I said, I've only been doing it for a few years, but it's incredible to see the level. It's different kind of playing, like you said, than Pacific Symphony or a symphony orchestra, but it's really something special to be in a room pre-COVID, a huge studio filled with 100 musicians playing, with John Williams with no click track actually, and just playing all out. It's a real joy.
Yeah, it's an honor. It was an honor every single one of those sessions. That's the feeling that you got. Just you were honored and blessed to be there.
Right. Betsy has a question. Have you ever done circular breathing to play an extended note?
I'd have to say that in the orchestra, there's really no need to do that. There's no need to circular breathe to play an extended note in the orchestra. Just that sort of phrasing doesn't exist in the orchestral literature. That's more of a showpiece kind of thing. And when you're in high school, you try to do these things that you see on TV, that you see the Canadian brass do, or you see Wynton Marsalis do, and you try to imitate that. And it's a good circus trick, to impress your friends. I could do it. My kids have told me I look funny when I do it. So I try not to circular breathe in public. I think when I breathe in, I lift my eyebrows, So I'm playing the note and I breathe in and lift my eyebrows, and it's not a good look for me. So
I remember actually I did my undergrad in Philadelphia at Curtis, and randomly one birthday somebody invited me to a Maynard Ferguson concert, and I didn't know who he was, and I didn't really know that kind of music, and I went to this concert and I was blown away. It was incredible. It was like 2 hours. He probably played like 5 minutes. The other trumpet, but those 5 minutes he played it like 3 octaves higher than everyone else, and it was
Right.
it was just crystal clear and just like this piercing sound, and it was incredible, and I'll never forget that experience.
Yeah. We used to go listen to him at Disneyland. He would play.
Oh, is that right?
At the wherever that Star Wars stage was, but my dad would go take me to see Maynard Ferguson. It was amazing. Yeah. Of course, you go home and you try to play like Maynard in your room and bug your neighbors. But
I know, like your father, it's a family thing. Your son also plays trumpet. How did that happen?
well, I kind of did the same thing my dad did with us, and I think bringing your kids up with music it's such a valuable skill, and it helps with your academics and just your work ethic, and you got to be organized, you got to practice every day, so those things, and it develops your ear, your listening skills. So when my kids get to 5 years old, 6 years old, I the same thing, they play piano and an instrument of their choice. So along the way, my sons have played trumpet, and then my oldest, he played trumpet his first chair in the middle school band, got to high school, and he met basketball. So that was it. That was it for a trumpet. So girls like basketball players, I guess. And that was his sort of focus, And then my middle child, I started him on trumpet because that's the only thing I know how to teach is trumpet. So I always start him on trumpet. And he just kind of wasn't a trumpet player. Then I said, well, let's check out some other things. So I brought home a saxophone. And so yeah, he took the saxophone and he played that for a while. And then he hit middle school and he saw the drums and drumline. So I lost him to the drums and drumline. So he's all about the drums and drumline. Still, it's music. So I wasn't too thrilled about the snare playing in the garage, but or the marimba playing upstairs. The marimba playing was actually pretty good. But so, anyways, he did drums, and so my last hope was my youngest child, and gave him a trumpet, and it's very natural for him. I mean, kind of perfect. I'm sure he loves to practice, and I don't have to tell him to practice. And I think what it is that I told him that as a trumpet player, if you miss a day, which is true, if you miss a day, it takes you 3 or 4 days to get back to where you were. And he's reached a pretty high level for a freshman in high school. And he realized, I mean, he missed a day because we went on vacation or something. He missed a day, and all of a sudden he goes, "Dad, I just don't sound good today." I was like, "I told you." 3 days. So from that point on, he just kind of practices every day.
Wow, that's cool.
In these times of quarantine, I'll not quarantine, but with COVID, I'm downstairs and I hear him practicing upstairs. It actually gets me motivated to go practice myself. I was like, well, maybe he sounds pretty good. Let me get up there and refine my skills a little bit.
Oh, that's interesting. I had no idea that was the case, because I remember back in Buffalo when we had these all-day auditions, the principal trumpet player would be on the committee, and during every break, he would be practicing trumpet while we were sitting there taking a break, and the rest of us were on our phones or calling wives and husbands. But he would be, just playing scales and stuff. And I was like,
yeah,
is he trying to show off for us? Why is he practicing? But
No,
well, now I see that if you take a day off, it takes some time to get back. Wow.
Yeah, and tours are really tough, and whenever we go on tour, I always got to say, well, where can I practice? Where's the ballroom that I can practice? And if that's not available, then I'm pretty much playing into the drapes with a mute.
Wow, that's amazing.
Just to keep things going, because you could be on tour for 2 or 3 weeks.
Is this all brass players or especially trumpet players?
I think it's especially trumpet players.
Okay.
You don't want to, 'cause I think the smaller the mouthpiece, the more it's a big deal.
Right.
And
I never hear the tuba player practicing.
yeah. Yeah, sure.
I have a very cute question from Ted Lee. I know the answer to it, but I want to ask you anyways. Hi, Barry. My 6-year-old son, Aiden, wants to know if you can play something for us from Star Wars.
Well, I would, but I actually, after this call, we're going to my house in Arizona, and my trumpets, everything's in my car right now.
So next time, Ted, he'll do a little something for your son, and when we're getting back on stage, please come and see us on stage. A question
Zoom
from
Zoom doesn't give the trumpet sound much justice. I mean, it's
true.
Just, it doesn't sound very good over Zoom. But
one of our biggest fans, Miss Rosalind Britton, has a question. I've noticed Wynton Marsalis plays a rather different looking trumpet. How is it different from the more traditional one?
Well, he plays a Monette trumpet. Not Monet, but it's Monette. He's from Monette. Dave Monette is from Portland. That's where his shop is. And actually, I play on the same instrument that Wynton plays on. And we actually play on similar mouthpieces. So Wynton and I play on, it's by the same instrument maker, except mine's in the key of C, his is in the key of B flat. And it doesn't look like normal instruments because these instruments are annealed. They're heated at a very high temperature and usually do not come with plating. So the metal's really soft. And so what that does is when the metal's annealed in that way, there's different colors in the sound. That if your ear is trained to hear those colors, they're pretty obvious to you, and certain players like those colors in their sound, and certain players prefer maybe a more brighter sound. It's all preference. And I think for Wynton, he enjoys those different colors that he can get with that particular instrument, and I do as well. So I have 3 or 4 of these Monet instruments, but I also have traditional trumpets as well that I play, depending on what piece of music is on the stand. So
Right. I think it kind of answers the next question. But someone asked, "You have only one trumpet," and the trumpet players I know, I think you guys have like 50 trumpets. How many trumpets do you actually have?
I'd say between I count 13 or 14 trumpets.
Gosh.
Some are in the garage on rafters. Some are in closets, and some are in my car, obviously. Uh, but yeah, I mean, as far as trumpet players are concerned, there's this long search in the beginning of that trumpet that's just right for you, and when you find it, you keep it, and that's your sort of go-to instrument. And then there's the other keyed trumpets. You would have E flat, which is great for the Haydn trumpet concerto, Hummel trumpet concerto, and some things in the orchestra. You would have the flugelhorn, which is great for jazz music. You'll see me play that in Pop's concerts. There's the piccolo trumpet, which the trumpet shall sound. If you have been to the Messiah and play with the Messiah, play the piccolo trumpet. A D trumpet. There's all these different things, that rotary instruments. The guys and I play rotary trumpets for certain pieces in the orchestra. So yeah, we have to kind of keep a variety of instruments at our disposal.
I know the answer to this question also, but I will ask you. Um, do you only play classical, or like Winton, do you play double in jazz as well? And what is the difference?
Well, as far as what my obligations in my life right now are, mostly classical with a little bit of pops or jazz here and there. In our orchestra, as you know, we'll have a classic season. We'll also have a pop season. So when I was growing up, you have to play everything. I mean, when I was growing up, I played a lot of jazz, a lot of lead trumpet screaming, lead trumpet playing, a lot of classical. And at some point in your journey, you have to make a decision, because there's not enough time in your day or in your life to be great at both. And I met Winton. Actually, I met Winton at the Orange County Performing Arts Center years ago when I was a kid. My dad took me down to the basement where Winton's dressing room was, and we had a conversation. And he asked me, "Well, what do you want to do with your life?" And "Well, I want to be you." He said, "No, you
Nice.
can't." He said, "You can't be me. You can't. You can't." And he just explained to me, it takes a lifetime to do one of these things very well. So it takes a lifetime to play classical music, and you're always learning. And I always tell my students that you never reach a point in classical music, well, okay, I'm just on maintenance mode now. I mean, you're always learning different things about your instrument, about music, and the same with the jazz players. I would never say that. I mean, it takes a lifetime to. It does take a lifetime to do well in the jazz field. So I would say that I classify myself as a classical trumpet player that has the ability to dabble in the jazz or lead jazz trumpet playing. But in the end, if there is something very demanding, let's say a Maynard Ferguson type thing, as you mentioned before, I'd leave that to the guys who actually specialize in that, like Wayne Bergeron or Dan Fernero, somebody like that does this all the time. That's their sort of thing. And
No, but I mean, I heard you in one of these weeks, in one of these crazy weeks where we had, 3 different programs. I remember doing a kids concert with you, but with some Tchaikovsky on it, and then you did Handel Messiah, and then we did a Brahms symphony in the evening, and then I remember there was a Pops concert where you had to play really high stuff. I mean, I just, first of all, stamina, and secondly, just to play all those different genres, it was incredible. And I would tell my colleagues back east or in Europe, I'm like, you guys, you'll not believe this guy. He can just do everything, and in one day.
oh,
I mean,
thank
this is
you.
not over a month, and I think that's not only your training, but that you can be so flexible, and it's incredible and all the genres at the highest level. So it's
Well,
amazing to share the stage with you. It's fantastic.
I appreciate that, Dennis. That means a lot. It was now you're making me miss working.
No, we all miss working, and Again, I know, especially as concertmaster, I'm not supposed to have favorites, but there's definitely some favorites in the orchestra that I really miss. Your trumpet playing, the clarinet player, actually, who's just moved on, but just incredible players. Our principal flutist, our principal violist. I mean, just incredible players, and all gathered on the same stage, trying to make music. And when this is all over, I mean, I can't wait till the first rehearsal and the first concert. It's going to be this huge celebration, I think, of what we've missed for the past year,
Right.
and hopefully it's soon.
That's
we
great.
hear talk about the vaccines. Hopefully, that's real, and it helps all of us.
I mean, you were talking about.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was saying you were talking about the organ spectacular, and one thing that I missed, one point that I missed talking about is that's the one concert where we get like you said, our principal flute or bassoon. Rose played with us a few times, and Rob Slack on percussion. Ben, we had our principal oboist. I mean, it gives us an opportunity actually to play in a different setting with each other. So that I do miss that part of it as well.
We have a question from Mr. Lambert, and I know the answer to this also, but at a performance a couple of years ago, I thought I saw you use a Chivas Regal bag to kind of mute your trumpet. What does the Chivas bag actually do to change the sound, and why that particular bag?
Okay, so there's a Crown. Yeah, it was a Crown Royal bag.
Right.
And of course, the ongoing joke is that the fun part about that is choosing the right bag. So you have all these bottles in front of you. You finish every. No, I'm kidding. I found that bag gives the right sort of sound when you're playing a solo that needs to be covered, or a solo that needs to have a smoky sound to it. And sometimes it's appropriate that if the solo calls for a hat, I like actually using that for the different colors that it gives off. Because sometimes when you put a hat over the bell, it kind of disrupts the sound waves, but also gives it a unique sound as well. But I think you've probably seen me use that bag for American in Paris and solos of that nature. But it gives it a covered sound, sort of a smoky sound, more of a jazz type sound. And more than anything, I think I love the comments that I get when I use the bag, especially when we used to play at the Verizon or Pacific Amphitheater, where it's broadcast for 8,000 people, and I put the bag on, and I hear the audience go, "Ooh, what's that?" It's usually the guys that have the people that have had that particular drink and like it. And so I get that all the time. Walking to my car, we like the Crown Royal bag, So
I mean, I know you're busy answering questions, so you can't see the chat, but you're gonna be amazed at all the comments about the organ spectacular. It's
awesome.
The love that's pouring out. It's amazing. For all of you who love Barry in the organ spectacular, please come to our regular concerts. He's just as amazing, and it's a little bit different music, of course. Sometimes a little more serious, but I promise you that you'll go home with the same feeling of awe at the level of some of these musicians on stage. A question from a trumpet player. For those of us who are trumpet players but don't have 8 hours a day to practice, what is the most important thing for us to focus on?
That's a good question. Obviously 8 hours, we like to say 8 hours a day, but as a trumpet player, you're on limited time because the fatigue that sets in when you're playing happens usually after an hour and a half, then you've got to take a break. So eight hours in a row is kind of unrealistic for brass players in general, or trumpet players. So I would say break that up. If you can play once in the morning, I call them two-a-days, just like an athlete. Work out in the morning, work out at night, or in the afternoon. So 2 different sessions. So you'd play for an hour, basically fundamentals, and that's really important. And then in the afternoon, you work on things that challenge you. But that time of fundamentals is the one that you have to do every single day. So if you have time for the challenging stuff that happens later in the day, then great, you got to it. Live to fight another day. But It's the fundamentals. It's the long tones. It's the breathing. It's the listening. It's these kinds of things that you can take an hour and a half that doesn't really get you tired. If anything, it feels good. It warms you up. That's the one thing you should do every single day. With my students, we talk about that routine. What is the routine that you do supposed to do every day? And I think that's the question. It has to do with focus. It has to do with breathing. It has to do with mouthpiece buzzing at times. It has to do with intonation and where are you playing on the sound, which is not taught to middle school or high school students sometimes. So there's that's sort of an analytical part of your practice session that happens in the morning. You know, but yeah, definitely break it up. But I would say if you can do something every day, it would be sort of the fundamentals in the morning. As long as you're playing every day.
Right.
If you don't touch it, that's when it's dangerous.
Right.
So
That's a little. I mean, it's totally different with the violin because actually violin you can play 8 hours a day, so we
Right.
don't have the excuse of embouchure or getting tired. But no, I'm actually learning a lot because it's. I had no idea that you need to play every day.
Right.
I think there's
Well-
some fiddle players who leave their fiddle in the locker room overnight and they just show up on rehearsal. I guess you can't do that as a trumpet player.
Right. No. You're taking your instrument with you. Uh, One thing I do with my kids when they're really young. I mean, when you're 5 years old, you're not going to sit in there and play the routine and these things that I'm telling you. Especially, when you're trying to teach your own kids. So what I did at that point, I was like, just do something. Get up there and buzz your mouthpiece, make a bunch of racket, make siren noises. Anything to start to develop those muscles. And at some point that sort of kicks into more interest than well, I want to do more than just do a siren on my mouthpiece. I want to play some music. But as a little kid, in my experience, it's hard to get them to really sort of concentrate on fundamentals in the beginning. So you got to make it fun at first.
Sure.
So
I have a question. Maybe it's for both of us. But do you find the Pacific Symphony plays more or less new music than other orchestras in the USA?
I don't know. I mean, you're probably a better resource to answer that.
I mean, for me, there are some orchestras in the U.S., of course, who specialize or who are known for their new music. We have San Francisco, L.A., and somewhat New York. But I think it is different than in Europe because in Europe, since it's so heavily funded by the government, I remember we could play concerts, and if nobody came to the concerts, we would be still financially secure. And so that's why we had the luxury and the flexibility to play new music all the time. I think if we played new music every week in Pacific Symphony or anywhere in America, I think the subscriptions would go down. People would complain, and but what I'm suggesting for American orchestras is that we need to find some kind of balance because the classics and the favorites are the favorites for a reason. But if we stop playing new music, I think this will harm our future. And there's a lot of great new music out there. There's so much amazing new music. Young composers. I mean, not only American composers, but there's young composers everywhere who are writing amazing stuff. Cutting edge stuff, and not always so atonal and hard to listen to and hard to understand, but stuff that's beautiful. I mean, there's some composers that I play regularly, colleagues of mine from school, that if you heard them, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. This is new music. This was written by, someone in our generation. And I think that we just need to give it a chance.
Absolutely, I agree.
But it's just the way that it's set up. I think if the government in the U.S. completely sponsored our concerts and it didn't matter if people came or not, I think we would take a little more risk and play some more new music.
Right.
But
That's where it's tough. Yeah,
it's tough, and it's a fine balancing act, and that's why it's tough being music director in America, and it's tough being the CEO because you gotta find the right balance. If you just play the Tchaikovskys, then your orchestra's never going to develop. But if you only play the new music, you're gonna go bankrupt, and so it's to try to find the right balance is difficult.
Right. Absolutely.
Actually, when you said you wouldn't be able to play something from Star Wars, that was not exactly true because we have a little bit of a teaser at the end where you do play a little bit of Star Wars. Is that true?
Okay. Yeah. Well. So, I mean, I know we don't have time to watch all of the videos, but I've done a lot of projects, but my latest project is Star Wars. So what I've done is contacted all of the Star Wars trumpet players that played on the last three movies and say, hey guys, let's put together a mosaic. It'll be the official trumpet section of the last three Star Wars movies, and then I'll put it together, and then we'll put it out there. But while I'm waiting for their recordings, because they have to send me these recordings of them playing their part, I mean, I arranged this thing for seven trumpets. So we've got to play different parts and fill in the blanks. So as I'm waiting for that, I'm working on some other projects plus the intro, which I think you guys are about to see.
Yeah, this unfortunately you will not be able to see later because it's not finished. But please enjoy this, and yeah, this is a lot of fun.
If you are watching this message, that means it's 2020 and you're in the middle of a pandemic. This is a call for help to the trumpet section from the last three Star Wars movies. John Lewis, Barry Perkins, Dan Rosenboom, Dave Washburn, Rob Shear, and Jim Grinta. Guys, you gotta bring it back. The dark side is upon us.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's the sort of introduction, and that was a lot of fun to put together.
That's amazing, and like I don't know if you guys heard it, but that will not be on our chat, so because that's not finished, so you won't be able to get that. But please check out YouTube. If you just put Barry Perkins, he's got a few other fun clips, and a lot of his trumpet playing, of course, and now starting a little bit with his acting skills. Or is there a future of a Denzel Washington future in your future, Barry?
I don't think so. My dad likes to joke with me a lot about that one. You know, he sees his videos and he actually says, hey, you gonna be a Denzel Washington now? I was like, no, I think I'm gonna stick to the trumpet. But this is fun in the meantime. You know, it's a lot of fun.
I mean, Corona is, of course, has been just devastating for everyone. But on a personal and selfish level, it's been really nice to get to know some of my colleagues and ask them questions that you wouldn't really have a chance to ask because everyone's busy. You're driving around from here to here. But last week with Jeannie and this week with you and some of my colleagues from other orchestras, it's been really fun to get to know you as a person, not only a musician, but just to get to learn a little bit more about the whole package. And so in that way, I guess it's been really nice. And hopefully this doesn't go on much longer. I don't want to get to know any more of my colleagues. That's enough, I think. I think we're ready to go back on stage.
I'm ready. I really miss playing with the orchestra. I miss playing for Carl. You know, those are definitely exciting concerts. And I miss my section, you know, playing with Tony Ellis and Dave Wales. I mean, those are some of my favorite trumpet players. I mean,
yeah, it's
very, very, very lucky to have the section that we have in place.
Yeah, and it's amazing on a Wednesday night to have so many people join us here, and we feel your love. I mean, all these comments, it really brings a tear to my eye. And again, and a lot of people watch this afterwards, and you know, I always get comments saying, you know, keep strong, and you know, you'll be back soon. You know, we're all praying for you, and we're all wishing you the best. But yeah, I hope everyone out there realizes that all the musicians, we're ready when this is over and when we're allowed to safely. We'll be there, and we'll try to create the same high level of artistry and music making that you're used to, and when we get back on stage, I think none of us will ever take it for granted again.
No
the
way.
Support of the community and just the chance to be able to play with each other. It's a real blessing.
Absolutely. Yeah, this last video that I did last week, I know a lot of us are doing things via Zoom. We're giving Zoom lessons, and so that was my attempt on adding some humor to the Zoom thing that we did. I don't know if we want to play that before we go. I think we're running out of time.
With all those, I think Alexi will put on the chat. But there's one more thing I wanted to mention before we go. Someone asked, do you do Zoom chats and practice sessions? I know you are part of a few different websites. Can you talk about that a little bit?
You mean Zoom? Say that again?
I know you do some online master classes or something like that. There's some stuff that you do, don't you?
Okay, I do. I mean, I have something with Chapman College tomorrow. I think that's at 11:30
No, but the thing
a.m.
that you did where you put up all those little, is it like a masterclass thing?
Uh, I do have instructional videos. I mean, is that what you're talking about? Those
Yeah, that's
instructional?
where I'm going. I think that's what these people are asking. Do you have these instructional
Okay.
videos or something online
Okay.
that they can, yeah.
Okay, so that's those are private links, so they're not
Mhm.
public right now. But
Right.
if you email me at my website, I can send you those links. I mean, they're totally free for those who are interested. But yeah, there's like 5 chapters, and it's basically for people probably more of a high school age that are starting and not sure about what equipment to play and what tuners to buy, and so I did those videos for my son's high school because
Awesome.
I knew that they wanted me to sort of coach the trumpets. So, and I know this sort of teaching them via Zoom is difficult when I have 20 trumpet players on the screen. So what I did is I
Right.
made these videos and sort of homework, so watch the videos and let's talk about it the next day.
Right.
So it goes through warm-ups, it goes through range exercises, it goes through all of these things, basics that are necessary for the trumpet player, the young trumpet player. And the 5th chapter is etudes that you have to do for homework, of course.
Awesome. Yeah, so check out Barry's website. Check him out on YouTube. And like everyone's hoping for, you'll get to see him back on stage, hopefully sooner rather than later. I want to thank you, Barry, for taking his time during this holiday. And I hope to see you in person as soon as possible.
Well, thanks for having me, Dennis. I appreciate it. I miss you. I miss all of my colleagues, and I'm very hopeful that we'll be back to work real soon.
Absolutely. Take care, Barry. Thanks so much.
Okay. All right. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.